1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Together.
And welcome back to the True Patriot Podcast interview series. Folks at home, I have someone special for you here today. It is with a tremendous amount of honor and privilege and excitement to welcome to our tiny little show here that we're trying to grow in leaps and bounds, Mr. Jody Queen. Jody, thank you for joining us.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Gene. Thank you for having me.
You betcha, man. So as you know, we've been talking off the air. I am still what you would consider, and I probably will be for the next couple of years, a kayak bass fishing rookie. But we are flirting around with the concept of possibly going all in on a tournament trail piece there. So I've been getting plugged in, and man, you are probably, like, for us in the bass boat world, you just might be our KVD for kayak bass fishing here, man. I mean, I'm a huge one on stats, and I've been looking it up. You have had a tremendous amount of success in the kayak bass fishing world. You are
very fortunate.
You are the defending champion of probably the most coveted, from my research, one of the most difficult to qualify for and win, presented by DeeZee, the KBF TheTEN, the 2021 champion. That was the big mark so far. What was that like to you?
Oh, wow. I mean, it's probably the pinnacle of my career, in this sport. I mean, because, the 10, it's one of those tournaments where, just being there is an honor to be there, of course. And it's a long road just to get there to the 10, and it's one of those things that no matter what trail series, the Bass, the Hobie or KBF or any of your local stuff, no matter where you fish, any way that you can qualify for that tournament, that's what everybody's goal is as an angler in this sport. And, just being there, and I've qualified 5 times out of 6 for that. And there's one other person who's qualified 5 times for that. And last year was it was my year to win it. And I just, I don't have the words for it, how it felt to actually reach that point. It's just something that we all want, because, when you're fishing against the angler of the year, in more than one series, usually, you're fishing against, national champions, from the national championships. I mean, you're fishing against the best of the best, and you're all fishing, in the same area on the same water. And it's just, it's what we want every year. And I'm going to shoot for it again next year,
Now, remind me again where that was almost a year ago, literally February 4th, 2021. Yes.
Right.
What lake was that at?
Now that was Kissimmee Chain, Florida. And there's actually, I mean, last year I think there was 8 or 9 lakes that you could fish on that chain as long as you stayed on that chain. And the thing about kayak fishing is, in these tournaments, you can launch from any public access. I mean, it's because we don't have the ability, like I'm sure like a bass boat, and this, you can pick up and run from one end of the lake to the other, or you can lock through, but we don't have that ability.
Right.
Now I have loaded up and driven, 25, 30 minutes and launched at another spot. But as a rule, wherever we set in is pretty much within a 5-mile area there that we fish. And the advent of motors into this sport has really increased that range quite a bit.
That's awesome stuff. And that's so, and you touched on this here a little bit, though. That event, I mean, you are facing the best of the best that the sport at the current level, in a current competition has to offer. And this one here, mind you, again, I'm a rookie coming in, so I had to do a lot of research online about this, reading articles. You didn't start off bad or slow, but comparatively speaking, there were a couple other guys that come shooting out the gates there.
Yeah.
And your day
Right.
one, you were, I think, sitting on fifth or so after
Yep.
that. But
Yep.
man, those guys in front of you look like they were on fire. And is this a 2 or 3 day event?
It's a 2-day event.
2-day event, right?
Yep. And now it can be a blessing and a curse being in a kayak, because you can actually get into these small areas where these big boats can't go. However, they are small areas, and if you cover that area pretty hard, you can fish those areas out and not have nothing left to go to the next day. So you better have backup spots. So the strategies are a little bit different because we're in kayaks versus boats. So that comes into play a lot. It's just a different strategy,
Right.
But yeah, I was on a lake that I knew held fish, and I was going to stay there hell or high water, because I knew that those fish were in there. And we had a heavy cold front move in, and it really kind of shut the bite down on us because I was fishing a shallow lake. So I had just an okay first day, and then the next day it warmed up a little bit, and those fish, they started coming my way then. And the guys that had all those big numbers on the first day, they kind of fished their holes out. So I was in a pretty good spot.
One of the best descriptions I saw of this was one of your competitors out there, Brian Aliff. He was quoted as describing you as tougher than shoe leather was his quote about you. And that was talking about your ability to stay in the fight and keep going, make that day 2 and just take it home there. And I thought that was, man, what an awesome deal coming from one of the other guys to describe you like that.
Yeah. Brian's a good guy, man. He's a heck of an angler and a heck of a turkey call maker. That's what he's doing now. He doesn't fish much anymore, but yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
That's awesome. Speaking of, from what I'm seeing out there, and I want to go back and we're going to touch a lot more on you and your career and so forth, but we got this good convo going. I wanted to keep it rolling. From what I'm seeing at the highest level where you fish, you compete, you basically are setting, kind of that bar. You guys out there, I mean, fishing is always about the relationships. I mean, even in the bass boat world, we compete every day, and when our number's called and we go, it's no punch is going to be pulled. But you guys, for something about the kayak world, strikes me as maybe a little closer. Now, I know I'm probably speaking out of turn. I'm going to have some bass boat guys upset with me, but it just strikes me that way. It's just a feeling I get that these guys, this is a close-knit team. What do you suppose that, I mean, you're agreeing with me on this. What do you suppose that's about? Just guessing.
I can tell you a big part of it is, when we started this thing and some of the places where we fish, we are in small craft, and we all have kind of a buddy system, and we all kind of watch out for each other. And in doing so, you build these relationships with people because you're basically watching out for everybody. I mean, if high winds come up, I'll make a post, guys, be careful out there. This is going to be dangerous today. Make sure you wear your PFD and make sure, and so we all kind of look out for each other. And the relationships you build, it's so close knit that you actually, and I've described this before, it's like Corey Dreyer and I, who is an awesome human being and another great angler. We get on the water and we compete against each other with each other. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. I know.
We're out there competing, man. Don't get me wrong, but we're always, make sure that each other's okay, and you can do that. You can do that in this sport, and that's one of the unique things about this. You're going to find when you dip your toes into it that you're going to have 4 other toes watching your back.
And that's Corey. That's so funny you say that. I've got his name right here on my list. I wanted to mention that because I can glean that from, social media, news articles. You guys are Z-Man teammates, for sure.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, this Mr. Dreyer here, he's following in some footsteps. This guy is lighting the scene up. I mean, he is one heck of an angler.
Oh yeah.
And I was checking out his stats. I was talking about this before we started recording here. I'm a huge stat monkey. All right. 23 years as an IT guy. So I'm a big time nerd with Excel.
You like the numbers.
Yes, sir. Former hockey goalie. So I'm all about percentages. So I started running a few.
Nice.
According to Tourney X here, they've got you listed at about 221 events.
Okay.
Of those 221, you have top 10 through Tourney X a staggering 125 times. That is basically 57% of the tournaments you get in. You're going top 10, probably cashing a check.
Yeah.
Even more impressively, there's about a 25% chance that you're going to top 3 in one of these events. Kayak bass fishing, and no matter what bass fishing, man, it takes such a perfect storm to win an event. How have you remained this consistent? Like I said before, you're pretty much the KVD of kayak bass fishing in my mind, but how have you achieved that? You know, that consistency. Do you have a formula for that? Is that just good, clean living? What do you think?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I've had, you know, ever since I started fishing when I was at a very young age, I mean, it's all I ever wanted to do. So, you know, when I was growing up, it was, you know, the Denny Browers and Hank Parker and Roland Martin, Bill Dance.
Yeah.
Those were my heroes growing up. And I'll never forget it when I was like 12 years old. Denny Brower made the Wheaties box.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, this is what I want to do. So, you know, everybody else is out there. They got baseball heroes and football heroes. And they don't even know who my heroes were at that time. But, you know, that being said, I did a lot of fishing growing up. I never really lived around lakes, and I always lived around rivers and creeks. And that's where I cut my teeth. And I was mostly that type of fisherman. So when, you know, KBF come along and I'd heard about all these lakes, you know, there were bucket list places that I always wanted to go to. And, but I never was much of a lake fisherman. So I had such a great background on the rivers that it taught me how to read geographically, how even dammed up reservoirs, how the topography might lay under the water, you know, how things are sloped and how, you know, the banks and stuff. And that helped me out a lot. I never used a fish finder, no kind of electronics. And when I first started this, I do now, and I love them. And I kind of hate it that I'm so dependent upon them, but they do help. And, you know, just learning all that, I had a pretty good idea of what I needed and where I needed to be to compete, you know, at a higher level. I just didn't know if I had, you know, when I first started this, I didn't know if I was any good at it or not, you know. So, and the only way you find that out is just go ahead and start entering the tournaments. And you know, that's how I found out that, you know, I got a little bit of a knack for it. But as far as just a certain routine or anything, I really couldn't put my finger on it. If you know, Corey could probably tell you better than I could because he watches. I don't pay much attention to it. You know, I try to look at things all at once, and I don't, like if I get to a lake, I want to know what the water temperature is, the water clarity. I want to know, you know, what time of year it is and stuff like that. It's just the normal stuff. But, you know, I think one of the biggest things is eliminating water. So I think, you know, if you can eliminate enough water and find those fish, then you got just as good a chance as anybody else catching them.
Well, and that's, you know, I think it becomes even more critical in your world, in the kayak world, because what you touched on earlier, and this is one of the things that I'm actually kind of excited about, and that is in a bass boat, if I go into a pocket and I start fishing and I'm not finding what I think I should be finding, I most of the time will go, you know what, I've got about 83 other waypoints about 15 miles up. I'm gone.
Right.
And I hit the motor and boom, I'm, you know, 70 mile an hour. I'm running up the lake and we're out of here. In a kayak, it's okay. I know they're here, but dang it, what do I need to do? You have to, it's so much more intricate, I think, of, you know, learning that, you know, the resources of an existing area. So if you don't eliminate that water, you could start in a really, you know, Sahara Desert type location and really find yourself in trouble.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And in the kayaks, it's more of a microcosm of the whole lake. So if you're in a lake arm and I'm fishing, you know, say I'm fishing Gunnersville and I can't run 50, 60 miles. That lake's 66 miles long or something like that, 64. Yep. You pick an area and you look at the features, and I use Google Earth a lot for this. You look at the features that area holds, and you count on there being grass there or whatever. But once you hit that area, that's your lake. That's your lake. That's the area that you've chosen that you need to break down. So you're eliminating water in a smaller area. And right. I've said this before, you become really intimate with that area and its structure and its fish and how they lay. So you're actually, you're not worried about what's going on over here. You're worried about what's going on right there. So, right. I recommend a little bit, at least, a few days of pre-fishing to try to get that stuff dialed in, because it's just so much harder to cover more water, more of the lake, So right. I'll go in and I'll find me a creek arm, or I'll find, where a creek's running in. I'll find flats, I'll find grass, I'll find humps or whatever, and I'll give them a good go and eliminate them. If I don't need them, then I'll move to another creek arm or another large flat area or something like that.
That's awesome.
And it's a little bit different, but you're still doing the same thing, just in a smaller area.
Yeah, it's, they're very different, but yet they're still very much the same. The world's, it's competitive bass fishing at the end of the day. We're all going after the same thing. Mm-hmm. We're just, I'm confident you're going to put fish on the board, whether you're on the shore in an inner tube or a bass boat or a kayak. I'm sure of that by now.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the professional scene that is out there. Bass fishing's taken off in the kayak world.
Yeah.
Right now, you're competing in 3 of the most linear of the national scenes. We're talking the KBF,
right?
Which is in like 46 some odd states or whatever across.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We have Bass, who's jumped in. Good on them.
Yes.
Who's starting to try to build up that side, and then the Hobie Boss, the Bass Open Series.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, this was one interesting thing, and I just have your take on this. So as I was doing research into these, I have a BoatWorks Blue Sky 360. That's what I just purchased. Right. That's what I plan to fish out of. I feel like it'll be the best first boat for me, just because I'm coming from a bass boat. So having as much real estate and stability as I can get,
Exactly. I get it. Yep.
But the one thing that's going to keep me out of the Hobie Boss series is because all the others allow motors. Now, I get it. I think from a product business piece, the Mirage Drive, nobody can touch that thing. All right. They knocked it out of the park with that thing.
Yeah, they did.
If they want to grow the sport for that championship piece there, do they have any thoughts about allowing motors? Do you think? Just your idea? You're part of Team Hobie. You guys are you're the industry standard pretty much out there. So do they have a look at that, or is that just something that they're good with being where they're at?
Gene, I think that, I understand, and I've said this many times before. A lot of the big debates online when you get on Facebook and that stuff, it's been several times.
Oh, there you are. I think we had a little technical.
Are you there?
Yep. Now you're back.
There's always going to be a certain popularity for going all paddle or all pedal or or all motor even. If you want to go there, it's fine, and it's to each his own. But if you're going to have a sport, and you're really in it to take it to the next level, eventually you're going to have to consider going with motors. And there's a couple of reasons for that. There's more than a couple, but I'll give you one really good one right now is, if you don't allow motors in your sport, you're pretty much relegating your series to a younger crowd, because being able to be competitive is what we all aspire to be in these series. So if you are, put it in a situation where you have to travel 6 miles to get to a spot and you're 65 years old, well, it's probably not going to happen. So it kind of takes away the ability to compete with some of these guys who can get out there and they can push, they can kick 6, 7, 8 miles. Christine Fisher, man, I've seen her, kick 8 or 9 miles to get to a spot.
Yeah.
And that's not feasible for a lot of us. People who have handicaps or just have, bad joints or something like that, it kind of keeps them from actually excelling. And what that creates is a series that gives you a lot of the same people fishing it over and over and over, and you're not really bringing anything else into the sport. I think eventually Hobie will probably look at it. They're already allowing motors in practice. You can use a motor in practice, which was a huge step. And I think they did that because of some pressure from the anglers. And so if they've come that far, then maybe they'll, eventually take the next step. I mean, I can be hopeful for it. And I hope they do, because it'll open up a lot. I think it'll grow a little bit once they open it up for motors.
Well, and it's so big for a sport when the front runners, start listening to, and they start taking measures to grow a sport.
Right.
I mean, nobody can dispute what Hobie's done for the kayak, for fishing kayaks, for the sport of, kayak fishing. Nobody can deny that, but it is such it's such a fledgling right now, as far as it's booming, but man, it's about to boom even further. And we talked about this off air. The cost of entry to compete is far more affordable than some of the alternative options that are out there in bass fishing, that, like you said, you could include so many more people into this. And the more we can do to engage the outdoors, utilize it, be stewards of, conservation.
Absolutely.
That is, so yeah, that would be awesome to see. But it is interesting though, that this situation has left the door open for, several other divisions to kind of start up and start looking national.
It has.
You got the All-American Kayak Series that's out there. They're working their way, and they're getting some good. I was looking at their schedule. I have a feeling I'll probably jump into that one probably next season, just because they hit relatively close to me here in Colorado. They hit, some Oklahoma, some Missouri, Texas, they hit a lot of those there. So it's good to see there. But yeah, of course, KBF, I mean, they kind of started it, didn't they? I mean, weren't they the ones that said, look, we're going big with this?
Chad pretty much, he pretty much pioneered the sport, as far as, getting it set up to where anglers could come and fish competitively on a regular basis. But not only that, it's the other things that they do. Like they have, they got the new fish ops, which is, for, suicide awareness among veterans. And Chad is doing a 22 species in each state thing. And it just brings awareness, I mean, it's a really good thing. But not only that, we have, KBF has a challenge series. They have a trail series. We now have a pro series that we're starting. And we have the national championship, which is pretty much, I mean, the national championship is huge, not only in the payout, but in the ability for anyone. It's the any man's championship, because they can qualify through their local clubs. And which is another thing. We have ambassador clubs in KBF, and you can qualify through the local clubs. You can qualify through online tournaments. You can qualify at show up trails. There's so many ways to qualify for the national championship. So it's more accessible and it's more inclusive. So I think that's pretty much what kind of sets KBF apart from the rest of the guys out there. They just do a lot more for the kayaking community. It's not just just the trails or just the championship, or it's not just one single thing. And they're trying to be more inclusive, and they allow motors too.
On their schedule, I see something here. Maybe you can explain this to me. I know you're an angler with them, but I see Trail Series 1 and Trail Series 2. Okay. What does that mean on the schedule piece there? It seems to be at the same location. but
Yes.
it's trail series 1 and 2. I mean, do you enter them both? Do you enter one of them? What's the,
That's a good question. I'll explain it to you as easily as I can. It's pretty simple. By having a trail each day, and in the beginning we had a trail on a weekend, and that was it. I mean, if you couldn't get off work for the Saturday, there was no Sunday. So
right.
by having a trail 1 and 2, this allows people who work on Saturdays, they can come and fish Sunday. People who work on Sundays, they can come and fish Saturday. Just gives them a better chance to fish on that weekend. So it gives them 2 days instead of 1 day that they can meet up and do this. Also, having those 2 trail days, you might get there and absolutely bomb on one of them. And it works to the benefit of the angler who bombs on one of them, and then at the end of the day says, "Oh, I got them figured out." Then you can apply it second day. So that's a little extra boon, and that wasn't intended, but it's kind of a a residual thing that happens with having those 2 trails like that.
Yep.
So I think it's working out really good that way. I mean, I think it's ingenious actually, because if you get say 75 or 80 people on one tournament, and you have 40 new people sign up for Sunday, and 75, those 70 from that tournament go over to the next day. I mean, your payouts are going to stay pretty nice in there,
Heck
so
yeah.
it's more opportunity for money, and it's more opportunity for more anglers to fish it. So
you can fish them both, or you can do just one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that
And
counts as 2 events.
I always sign up for both of them. It's 2 separate events.
Outstanding.
You have 2 separate, yes. Yeah. I really like the idea myself.
We've had
Now,
on the MLF side of the BFL, we've had some makeup tournaments that actually put us back to back, like a Saturday, Sunday type deal. And I absolutely love that, because like you said, if I go out there and, squawk it on day 1, I can always, flip it around going, okay, now
right.
last half hour of this day, I'm going to try to figure something out for tomorrow type thing,
now,
Hobie
has always been 2-day tournaments.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you like that 2-day tournament format, Hobie, I mean, they've always had a 2-day tournament. And some people, I mean, a lot of my friends in the industry, they love 2-day tournaments, because it kind of shows that your consistency. You have to be consistent both days, So, I mean, it's good and bad but there's enough out. I'll tell you what's really nice is being able to choose.
Yeah. Having the choice,
being able to choose if you want to do a 2-day tournament, or say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go here and fish this 2 at one day, or I'm gonna fish bass this weekend, or it just lets us know that we're growing. This as a sport, this sport is growing. We have choices now. I can remember when there was no choice; there was only one choice, and and that was it. So the more choices we have, the more it reflects on the growth of the sport.
And the better it is for everybody involved, sponsors, anglers,
Absolutely.
sport,
Absolutely.
communities that we can bring to.
It's like buying a kayak when you want to demo. That's what they tell you. Demo when you're buying a kayak. If you're a first time buyer, especially, demo. I'm the same way with fishing. Fish them all. Yep. Fish them all. Figure out, what suits your needs the best, and go for it. If you can fish all 3 of them, more the better.
Go for it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. And that's kind of what, why we got our game plan lined up, like I don't do a single division of the BFL, because I'm not aiming for a regional. That's not our point. Our point is high profile lake that we can, move the wall of remembrance around and competitively fish it at bucket list locations. So now all this fishing talk and so forth, you are not just a fisherman. You, sir, are also an artist. Now talk to me about this. Let's figure. I mean, an artist of all mediums, or are we?
Pretty much anything I throw my hands on. If I want to do something with it, I'll try to do it. I'm, mainly I usually work in graphite pencil. I do a genre called photorealism, which is where you just take pencils and you kind of make it look like a black and white photo, but you're drawing it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's but I'm vice president of a art gallery called Gary Bowling's House of Art. Gary Bowling is another artist who started the art gallery, and we've been together now for close to 13 years now, I think. And he's a creative genius. I mean, he's the guy that I mean, he's got pieces in the Smithsonian. I mean, he's been all over the country. He's worked for Disney, and so he started this gallery, and I wanted to be a part of it, and I got into it on the ground floor, and I'm still there, and I'm the vice president, like I say, and my wife is the curator and the treasury, chief cook, bottle washer, you name it, she does it all. And so, but we have a great time with it. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we have a gallery. We have a local history museum in the bottom of the building, and in the upstairs, I'm a resident artist, so we have residences in the building. It's an old school called the Ramsey School, and it's 33,000 square feet, and we are in a constant state of renovation on it, trying to get it, let it get back to being all it can be. We have a theater in it. Like I say, we have a gallery, and we have each stair landing is going to be a different, like walking into a different world. On one landing, we have the Egypt, Queen of the Nile, and it's just amazing. And if you visit there, you really can't take it all in one day. It's one of those places where you really got to keep going back to it all.
Now, do you guys have a website for this out there for this?
We do. Our website's still a little bit under construction.
Okay.
But if you really want to experience it online, I suggest you go to either the Ramsey School on Facebook or House of Art on Facebook.
House of Art.
Okay. That should bring us up.
I'll circle back with you and get that stuff so that when we put this interview up, we'll be getting that up there so we can direct folks there. We'll make sure it shows up on the screen and such. So have you always been into art since you were a kid type thing, or is that something you developed
since I was a kid? I had a grandmother who was very supportive of my dribblings on paper. I'd doodle on everything I get my hands on, and on envelopes that had bills or letters that were laying unmailed, and they'd have to take them out and put them in something else. But, I was always putting a pencil on walls, or, I was the crayon kid on the walls or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I spent most of my life at least drawing a little bit here and there, and never really got real serious about it until about 13 years ago. Wow. My wife had an accident, and it put me at home a lot. I had to stay and kind of help her out during her recovery, and I needed to supplement our income. So I picked up a pencil, and the rest is history. So
that's awesome. That is so awesome. And my best friend, I basically call him my brother. He is an industrial artist, and you guys, the creative minds like that. I mean, I will put down a mean stick figure. All right. I can draw a stick figure guy, with the best of them, but I have zero artistic ability when it comes to that stuff. And so, I've always loved that mind of the artist. You guys see the world differently, and it's so cool to experience that out there. So this school and this it's
an amazing place, man. I mean, like I say, it's 33,000 square feet, and there's something around every corner. It's hard telling what you're going to see from one day to the next day. It changes exciting. All the time. It changes all the time.
Well, I am looking forward when we are in that neck of the woods, because I'm sure we will be eventually, that I'll get a chance to get over there and see that.
We'd love to have you.
On another note as well, not just artists, not just supreme hog snatcher of bass, but another reason that has endeared you to our causes here with the True Patriot and Romans Warrior Foundation is the fact that you, sir, are a U.S. Army veteran. And
yes, sir.
You and I spoke on the phone. You had a laundry list of responsibilities that you did in the Army there. You had a long list.
I did. I'm like a jack of all trades and master of none, I guess. If I see something broke, I got to fix it. And that's usually my downfall, because they want me to keep fixing it. So, you know how the Army is.
That's right. That'll teach you.
That'll teach you.
How long did you serve, sir?
Just a little over 2 years. I was on a 3-year, and I had a delayed entry.
Understood.
And
Well,
yeah, honorably discharged, and tried to go back in during the Kuwait war in Iraq, and there were so many people signing up. My recruiter said, "Man, we don't need you." I said, "I have a skill. I have several skills. I can actually help." And he's like, "Dude, we don't need you. We got so many people volunteering right now." So I almost got back in.
Guaranteed you've not heard it enough. So before we go any further, thank you. Thank you for everything that you and your family have done for this country. And that is,
I appreciate that.
That is something that charges us. I am not a veteran myself. But you are the reason that we are out there, is for the folks like you guys that have given so much, and absolutely, this ties so perfectly in. Though, talk to me about, because you had to have seen it somewhere along the way. I'm betting, and I'm going out on a limb here. I could be falling flat on my face. I'm not a professional interviewer. Talk about the outdoors, fishing. Mm-hmm. What it does, what it meant to you. We know it's a bug and it's our drug that we hook into, but talk to me about, your love for the outdoors and what attracted you to fishing so much.
So, and I think about this, and I have thought about it a lot, but it's kind of like why the artist has to draw, or why the musician has to play. It's more than just a bug. It's a passion. Exactly. It's something that you have to do. Once you get into it, I mean, at an early age, my dad used to take me. We were wade fishing all the time. I mean, growing up, that's all I did. I wade fished. I told you I was like on the rivers a lot and stuff like that. But I can remember at like 4 or 5 years old, my dad, I would ride on his back through the holes that were too deep for me to wade through. He just throw me on his back, and we keep going, and I'd have a fishing pole in my hand. And it was just, I think when we introduce our kids in that way into the outdoors, or whether it's that way or whether someone comes out of the city and just falls in love with it and finds their peace in it, or it's still a passion. It becomes a passion. And that's what it is for me. I mean, I've always been outside,
One of the big interviews I did on this month's podcast was with Operation Equine. They engage in equine related therapies and so forth, and they take it a little step further in that they actually have mental health practitioners on their staff. Their founder is one. Right. And we could go on for days about the whys that the outdoors are so beneficial to us. But this is one of the things that it always strikes me. And it's one of the proof to the pudding that we are creatures of this planet regardless of what your belief structure is. Right. We are living creatures of this planet. We're connected on some weird level somewhere, somehow. And if proof to this is talk to somebody, if they're from the city, or if they're from, if they work outdoors all day, if they're in the agriculture, when they talk about their childhood, watch the smile go on their face when they talk about that one fishing trip, or they talk about that one camping trip. It may have been the only one they took, in 10 years, but man, they can tell you just about every detail about it. There is a connection piece there, and it's what ignited our mission, to launch forward, to try to provide this as many times as we can out there, to see if somebody has that passion for it, along the way with that.
So I used to tell my buddy, he asked me one time, he said, well, why do you like it out here so much? I mean, my wife and I, we've lived in the middle of nowhere most of our marriage for 30 years. And
wow, 30 years. That is awesome.
I just looked at him and I just looked at him and told him, I said, that's where the really important stuff happens in this world. It's not in the cities. It's not in politics. It's not in industry. It's not in the marketing, or it's none of that. The really, truly important things that happen in this world happen out in those woods and in our streams and in our air that we breathe. So that's why we need to concentrate on saving those things, because they're the most important things we have in our lives.
And they're not
And
infinite. We got to take
no,
a part
they're
of
not.
it.
No,
Yep.
they are finite resources. Yep.
Yes, sir. It's all coming together. Your wisdom, all that piece, all that stuff's coming together for me. I'm starting to understand how you have those stats that you have, Mr. Queen. So, in veteran support services, in competitive bass fishing, in life in general, no one does this stuff alone. The stories you're telling me in 30 years of marriage, by the way, congratulations. That is amazing. That is awesome. I have a feeling you and I have something in common, that we both outkicked our coverage when it comes to our better halves. I'm pretty sure I know I have.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm married up.
Exactly. And it brings us right to the next piece, and that is the support system. To do this full time, to do things that we love to do. You're a professional bass angler. I'm a professional businessman who also is an angler, working my way to those areas, but none of it gets done without a support system. And I apologize if this information isn't correct, but according to Attorney X out here, the sponsors that have been with you and that have made this all possible, we got Hobie Fishing, of course, right there. Torquedo. They have Fishing Online, Dakota Lithium, Land Cruiser Restorations, Yak Attack, and Cash and Rods. Is there anybody, and Z-Man, obviously, and I see Lou's on the jersey there. Is that, these are all new teams that we've joined with?
Not Lou's, but Catch Boards, who makes our measuring devices, DeeZee, who has puts a huge amount of support into the kayak fishing world, Realtree, who is also dipping their toes into the kayak scene and trying to do, support the sport, Realtree Fishing. There's a few others, and some of those people aren't on my sponsor list. They were just like intermediate sponsors for like a certain amount of time, and then
associate sponsor type thing.
But they're all still great sponsors. Yeah. And but I still support them as much as I can. But yeah, my sponsors are great. I don't ever use anything that I don't actually believe in. Z-Man has been great to me. Dakota Lithium has been great to me, but I use the products. I use the products that I'm sponsored by, and that's all important too. And you tend to be more happy doing that than just I hate to use the terminology of sponsor whore, but having the amount of sponsors.
Oh, we got a small freeze happening here. Bear with us, folks.
Yeah, Z-Man has been really good to me, and I try to use only products that I believe in. Dakota Lithium, I use their products. They got the power box. They got the 54 amp hour, the 23 amp hour. I use all that stuff to power my electronics, and I give love to the products I use, even if I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not sponsored by Lou's or NRS, but they make a great product, and I'm proud to use their product. So I have no problem saying, "Hey, man, I'll put them on my jersey." That's what I do.
Yep. But
cash and rods, and I use cash and rods for everything. That's who's making my money for me. It's what's allowing me to live. And I got a visitor.
Well, there you go.
Dead dogs.
No,
the dogs are in.
That's right. Who let them out?
The dogs out.
I think there's a song about that.
There is.
That's right. So, and I have this conversation a lot, just because the business side is the area that we focus so heavily on. And I had to learn at a rapid pace too, the pro staffing game, and learn the pro staffing, like you said, earlier, the sponsor whore type thing. And really at the end of the day, whatever someone wants to do, that's to be able to live their dream, I say, let them. it's completely fine.
Yeah.
But there is a difference.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my son about this. When you believe in something, people will see it in your eyes. They'll see your passion for something and they understand.
You can't hide it.
Some of the best references I've ever given is for companies that I don't have a sponsorship with. I just give them a shout out for the fact that they're doing awesome business.
Exactly.
Doug Chapin, who fishes on the MPFL, I did an interview with him. He's a pro angler. I fished with him in the Great Lakes division of the BFLs, but he's now in the National Professional Fishing League, and he joined on board with 5x3. And anybody who was around the bass fishing world knows that company had its troubles with customer service and some stuff.
Yeah.
But it was old owners. This new ownership, only thing that's left is the name, because they believed in that mantra. They believed in that name.
Right.
As soon as Doug put his name to it, I'm like, all right, I got to figure out, because if Doug is willing to get behind him, because I know him, you know what I mean? Like what you talk about.
Right.
And
Right.
So when you have that type of relationship like that, and now I'll be honest with you, 5x3, I mean, that's, I've spoken with them a few times. That sounds like an awesome company. I wish they sold something more than just apparel. I wish they did fishing tackle.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, those companies are out there. I mean, that's why you got to be, I mean, if you're going to have longevity in a sport, I think you should, use the stuff that you use. I mean, it's okay to go from one sponsor to the next, but have a good reason to do so. Don't just be jumping around because money's not everything when it comes to that, especially if you're getting in the ground floor with a company and they're growing. I mean, just, hang on and help them grow and see where you sit in a few years. And a lot of times it comes back to you.
You and I both know that our sport is big, but it ain't that big. And that word gets out in a hurry.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Relationships is everything.
Matter. Yeah.
That is
never burn bridges. Always, never down another company. I mean, those are things that you have to learn in this sport, because I had to explain to me one time, when these big companies get together and they have their big board meetings and they're talking about the marketplace and all this, they're not there tearing other companies down.
Right.
They're there trying to figure out how and where they're going to spend their money and who they're going to get to represent their companies. They're not out there posting on Facebook, "Oh, this company sucks," or they don't do that. You don't see that. And because it doesn't happen, they're not going to do it. And if they do it, they're not going to do it publicly.
Yep.
So we shouldn't, as anglers, we shouldn't do it either. And as human beings, you shouldn't do it.
It's
anyway.
It's professional courtesy. It's professional representation.
Absolutely.
It's like you said, it's called being a good human. And besides, in the world of social media, any mention is good mention. I don't care if you put bad words after it or good words. If you mention them, I did I think it was December, maybe January. I did one of our Let's Talk About It. I get a little controversial. I get a little more opinionated. And one of my topics was professional courtesy. And there's, several companies that I have dealt with that need to learn this term. And like I told, I put in our podcast there that I'm not going to mention their name because I'm not going to give them that mention, and I'm not even going to, there's no purpose for that. That's there's not what the point is here. My point is we need to treat each other more professionally and at least have the common courtesy to say, no, thank you. We can do that. We're never too busy to do that, so you're right. Well, listen, Jody, I could talk with you all night long, and I'm sure we could talk fishing, this and that. But from all of us here at the podcast, I can tell you have new fans for life. My family and I, we are going to be following you. I truly know that I'll get my tail end handed to me, but I am looking forward to the day that I can compete against you. We'll see if I can go out there. I'm looking forward to it too, man. We'll see if I can go out there and earn my stripes enough to be able to make it to the land that you're in. And I'm hoping we can stay in touch with you. We're gonna follow your season here. We'll keep it up. If there's any new announcements, big things coming up, please know we're a resource for you, and we'll help out in any way we can. And who knows, maybe one of these
Same here.
times we'll have an event down in your neck of the woods there. And like I said, maybe we can have a chance to get together and maybe get out there and go bend a few rods on a couple of them when we're around there.
Hey, Gene, I would look forward to that, buddy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much. We appreciate all your time and tight lines this season, man.
Thank you, Gene.
One, two,